Maverick Physical Therapy, welcome to part one of what we'll call History, Mystery, and the Bound Imagination. I have a couple books in front of me here that I had published and that are copyrighted. The good old ISBN numbers and such. One being History, Mystery, and the Bound Imagination, which has been in the curriculum of some educational institutions, and the other, The Freak Manifesto, The Epic Movement Revolution. A unique person by the name of Stanley V. Paris once said, to not know one's history is like not knowing one's parents. And I believe that the story that we find ourselves in right now is movers. Whether we are the mover, we're all movers. Whatever that connection, that interaction between us may be, whether you're the patient, the learner, we're all learners. Whatever clinician we are surrounded by in terms of getting our care, getting our advices, getting our help and our assistance from, it's certainly really, really important to be able to have time to be able to reflect and to be able to know that, hey, there's a foundation of principles and there's truth behind the blueprints and the foundation in which what is formulated and put together for us and only us. So we need rationale that's customized. We need rationale that's foundational. And in doing so, it's nice to understand where things have come from and why. Throughout these episodes, History, Mystery, and the Bound Imagination, we're going to be taking a look at the history of sport, athletics, competition, and movement. We're going to be taking a look at why, or what we're going to be setting out to do. Will be a variety of things. One, to give us more perspective and appreciation for being able to move and why we need to be able to move and why we should move. We also need to be able to have a filter, and we've gone through a few episodes entitled Applied Functional Science, the Functional Filter, where we've taken a look at our truths, our strategies, and our techniques, rationale for why we do what we do. We've taken a look at the behavioral, the biological, and the physical sciences, but we really need to be able to take a look at how today we're going to be able to set out and adequately care for ourselves, as we really need to be able to initiate and take ownership of our own health care and avoid, at all possible, putting decisions in the hands of others to make for us. And so there's a lot to filter out today, and if we don't have a good functional filter and applied functional science filter, it's going to be really easy to grasp hold of a lot of different marketing strategies that are filled with key phrases and cued words raveled into sentences that sound very, very enticing, and that will have a real tendency to really latch on to us. So I want to give us a little perspective in terms of where things are today and why, pertaining to the rehabilitation world, the prehabilitation world, as well as the strength and conditioning and personal training like world, and how and why we're so focused on techniques rather than strategies and tactics, and where this is all stemming from and where this is all rooted in, and who's kind of responsible for that. So, opening up History, Mystery, and the Bound Imagination Part 1, I'd like to say that this is really intended for, so when I started passing out these works at the end of the season, middle of the season, throughout the season, when I was in professional baseball, these were stories that this is a story that was well entrenched in history, that connected a lot of diverse stories. There's a lot of research behind this dialogue, and as much as I love a good bedtime story, particularly a Dr. Seuss related story, maybe perhaps a little Goodnight Moon, a little Charlotte's Web. Those were some of my key go-tos growing up. This is intended to be able to be read as if we're just kind of out in the wilderness, whether it's kind of around a campfire after a long day of a long, adventurous, fun day of playing and exploring, maybe down at the beach right before it gets dark after we've played in the water and the sand all day, dug around. This is just a very primal thing that I've learned to be able to appreciate growing up, the good art of a good story. So I hope that you can just kind of kick back, relax, and enjoy this conversation that we start into. So, classroom-based movement, we're going to talk about the assault on logic, the neutering, domestication, and declawing of movement, the history of competition, athletics, Olympics, movement, survival, higher education, the strength and conditioning, rehab, and prehab industry and world. Once upon a time, the strength and conditioning industry, as in today, has been one of the fastest growing fields of occupation in the United States and in the world. It is interesting to take notice of the many places and developmental processes that the discipline has gone through over the years and decades, how it has evolved, where it is today, as well as the technological influences. History can be one of the most resourceful tools that we have in understanding how the thoughts and actions of cultures, both from current and previous ages, affect our lifestyle, interests, tendencies, and story. Gazing in and seeing how the future is drawing us out of the past and present will allow us to see how and why our predecessors did what they did, and how we can develop new ways of thinking in order to survive today, tomorrow, and beyond. The strength and conditioning industry began from the first movement on Earth. Our ancestors were hunters and gatherers, which required them to throw rocks, spears, knives, swing clubs, sticks, and navigate through terrain such as hills, rocks, and trees. While transporting objects by walking, running, and lunging in multiple directions, this grueling lifestyle was met with complaint of pain or injury, regardless of the fact that there was no general or specific warm-up for these activities, only the essential thought of survival. There was no instruction on proper lifting technique, interesting, or established limits of intensity or recovery, nor time spent on sessions to limber the body before activity. Movements were not adapted from a book of sport-specific drills. It's important to know that. They were instead lifelike and natural, proving that sport itself stems only from the capabilities of innate human movement, not analysis collected from a sophisticated biomechanics laboratory. The fine line that separates today's million-dollar athletes and the primal beings who first swung, struck, kicked, ran, and threw is simply the motivation for participation. There were no big money contracts back then, just life and death. Part 2 coming on up.